following account was forwarded to me by an anonymous source claiming it was written by a former night shift employee at SuperSaver Market. I've transcribed it exactly as received, with minimal editing. I cannot verify its authenticity, but the author, whoever they are, insists everything described is true. Make of it what you will. I guess I should start by saying I never believed in monsters, not the kind that hide under beds or lurk in closets anyway. Human monsters. Sure, I've met plenty of those, but the supernatural kind? Nah. That was before I took the night shift at SuperSave Market on Route 16, right where the edge of Millfield meets miles of nothing but cornfields and forgotten farmland. SuperSave sits alone at the junction of Route 16 and Old Mill Road, a sprawling discount supermarket with faded red letters against peeling beige paint. During the day, it's your standard grocery hellscape. Harried mothers with screaming children, elderly folks meticulously counting coupons, teenagers stealing energy drinks, normal, boring retail stuff. But at 8 p.m., everything changes. I needed the job badly. After getting laid off from my accounting gig in the city, budget cuts they claimed, though my boss's nephew mysteriously appeared in my cubicle the following week, I moved to my late grandmother's house in Millfield. The inheritance saved me from homelessness, but not from crushing student debt or the need to eat occasionally. The night stock associate position at SuperSave paid $22 an hour, suspiciously high for rural retail. The job listing mentioned unique working conditions and specialized inventory management, but I figured that was corporate speak for the back room is infested with rats, or something equally mundane. The posting specifically requested people with open minds and strong observational skills, but minimal curiosity. Red flags, sure, but beggars can't be choosers when they're 3 months behind on student loans. My interview with the day manager, Sheila, was brief. She was a perky, middle-aged woman with hair dyed an improbable shade of auburn who spoke entirely too fast. Your shift will be 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. and you absolutely cannot be late, she said, not looking up from my resume. There's a very strict changeover process. Very strict. 12-hour shifts, I asked. The night team works longer hours but fewer days. 4 on, 3 off. She finally met my eyes. The night manager will explain the special considerations. I'm not involved with that side of things. That side of things? Her smile tightened. You'll need to sign some additional paperwork, NDAs mostly. For a grocery store, it's just a formality, she said, sliding a stack of papers across the desk. We have some unique suppliers. I should have walked out then. But the starting bonus was $3,000 and my student loan servicer had started calling daily. One more thing, Sheila said as I was signing. No photos inside the store after hours. No recordings of any kind. Your phone stays in your locker. Breaking this rule results in immediate termination. Her smile was pleasant, but her eyes were cold. And we'll know. My first night started with an orientation from Marcus, the night manager. He was tall and rail-thin, with dark skin and eyes that seemed to reflect light like a cat's. Despite the warm September evening, he wore a turtleneck sweater that covered his neck completely. Sheila probably gave you the standard speech, he said, leading me through the eerily quiet store at 7:30 p.m. The last regular customers were being ushered out by day staff with practiced efficiency. Not much of one, honestly, I replied. Just mentioned unique suppliers and made me sign enough NDAs to choke a lawyer. Marcus chuckled. Yeah, legal's paranoid, but with good reason. He stopped near the employee break room and checked his watch. We have 25 minutes before lockdown, so I'll keep this brief. The night shift has different rules. Follow them exactly, and you'll be fine. He handed me a laminated card with a list. Night shift protocols, SuperSaver Market, number 481. 1. Never remove the name badge provided to you for your shift. It must remain visible at all times. 2. Address all customers by whatever name they give you, regardless of appearance. 3. Some aisles reorganize after hours. Refer to the night map, not memory. 4. Price checks require manager approval. No exceptions. 5. Some products are not for human consumption. Check the purple tags. 6. Do not enter the walk-in freezer alone. 7. If you hear singing from the loading dock, ignore it completely. 8. Certain customers may only shop in designated areas. Respect the boundaries. 9. BA system is for emergencies only. If you hear announcements, verify with the manager first. 10. If a customer asks, when does the sun rise? Respond only with, when darkness permits it. 11. The employee restroom is off limits between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. 12. Never discuss daytime operations with nighttime customers. 13. If you see an employee without a shadow, report to manager immediately. This is a joke, right? I asked, laughing nervously. Marcus's expression remained deadly serious. Read Rule 13 again. I did. What does that even... Look down, he interrupted. I glanced to the floor. Marcus was standing directly under a fluorescent light. There was no shadow beneath him. None at all. My laughter died in my throat. What the... I'm human. Don't worry, he said, touching his turtleneck unconsciously. Just modified for the job. You'll understand soon enough. He checked his watch again. Shit, we're behind schedule. Quick tour, then lockdown. Marcus walked briskly, pointing out areas as we passed. Produce section becomes the forage zone after hours. Don't rearrange anything there, even if it looks rotten. What appears decomposed to you might be perfectly ripe for others. The dairy section had been relabeled secretions and emissions for the night shift. I decided not to ask details. Aisle 7 is off limits to everyone but management and the tall ones, Marcus continued. You'll recognize them when you see them. Don't make eye contact. We passed a door marked Employee Lounge, night staff only, with strange symbols carved into the wood. Break room, Marcus said. The coffee's decent, but don't eat anything you didn't bring yourself unless it's specifically labeled for human consumption. This is insane, I muttered. It pays $22 an hour plus hazard benefits for a reason, Marcus replied. Most people quit after one night. Those who stay either really need the money or discover they have an aptitude for the unusual. At 7:55 p.m., an announcement played over the store speakers. Attention SuperSaver shoppers, the store will be closing in 5 minutes. Please bring your final selections to the registers. At 7:58, a second announcement. Transition protocols initiating. Day staff proceed to designated exit points. Night staff positions. Marcus handed me a name badge that read, Alex, human, edible, and directed me to a register. Your post for tonight. Trina will train you on the night register procedures. The badge says edible, I pointed out. Just a precaution, he said, already walking away. Some customers have dietary restrictions. At exactly 8 p.m, something changed. The fluorescent lights dimmed slightly, taking on a bluish tint. The air pressure seemed to shift, making my ears pop. The main entrance doors automatically locked with a heavy thunk that echoed through the store. And then I met Trina. She appeared beside me suddenly, though I hadn't seen her approach. She looked about my age, with vibrant blue hair cut in a sharp bob, and more piercings than I could count. Her name badge read, Trina, liminal, inedible. First nighter, huh? She said, grinning to reveal teeth that seemed just slightly too sharp. You look terrified. Excellent start. I'm not terrified, I lied. Just processing. Sure you are, she laughed. I was the same way. 3 years in, and you'll be as jaded as the rest of us. I'm your trainer tonight. She gestured to the register. The basics are the same as day shift, except for a few special codes and, the customers. What's wrong with the customers? Nothing's wrong with them, she said, sounding genuinely offended. They're just not all human, or solid, or bound by your laws of physics, but they need groceries like anyone else. Before I could respond, the lights flickered. Trina checked her watch. Right on schedule. First arrivals in 3, 2, 1. The automatic doors of the entrance slid open, but they had been locked moments before. A figure entered. Humanoid but wrong somehow, like a photo that's been stretched slightly out of proportion. It wore what appeared to be a business suit made of something that wasn't quite fabric, and his head nearly brushed the ceiling. That's Mr. Whisper, Trina whispered. Always first in. He buys the same things every Tuesday. 17 cans of condensed milk, a pound of raw liver, and all the light bulbs we have in stock. Don't stare at his face. I couldn't help but look. Where facial features should have been, there was just smooth, pale skin with subtle indentations, where eyes and mouth should be. The entity called Mr. Whisper glided toward the dairy section, moving with unnatural smoothness. The first hour is usually slow, Trina explained, showing me how to adjust the register settings. The rush starts around midnight when the muck people come up from the bog behind the loading dock. They're messy, but good tippers. Over the next hour, a trickle of unusual customers entered. There was an elderly woman who appeared normal except for the fact that she floated 6 inches above the floor. A cluster of what looked like children in raincoats, except they moved in perfect unison and shared a single elongated shadow. A man with skin the color of television static who purchased nothing but salt and batteries. So everyone just accepts this? I asked Trina as she showed me how to process payment in bizarre currencies I'd never seen before. The town has an arrangement, she said vaguely. Has for generations. We provide a safe shopping space. They stick to certain rules. Everyone benefits. The day shoppers have no idea. Most of the night clients can't come out during daylight hours anyway. And the company is okay with this, Trina snorted. Who do you think negotiated the original deal? SuperSaver has special stores like this all over, usually in small towns, always on boundary lines. Boundary lines. Places where the veil is thin, she said casually, as if explaining something obvious. Crossroads, town limits, places where different ecosystems meet. This spot has been a trading post for centuries. First for native tribes, then settlers, now us. The entities were always here. We just gave them a place to shop. Around 11:30 p.m. The doors opened to admit a perfectly ordinary-looking middle-aged man in a bathrobe and slippers. He nodded politely to me as he took a shopping basket. Human, Trina explained. Local insomniac named Dave. Comes in most nights for ice cream and true crime magazines. Not all our late customers are supernatural. Dave wandered to the frozen section, completely unfazed by the 7-foot praying mantis-like creature examining the popsicles next to him. The midnight rush came exactly as Trina predicted. A surge of customers entered, some leaving trails of phosphorescent slime, others drifting through solid objects, a few appearing to fold into geometries that hurt my eyes if I looked directly at them. I began ringing up purchases under Trina's supervision. Jars of colorless liquid labeled distilled moonlight. Packages of meat with labels in languages I couldn't read. Ordinary groceries like cereal and bread, and occasionally items that seemed to change form when scanned. This is, I stopped myself from saying insane again. Different, Trina supplied. Yeah, but you get used to it. Night crew becomes like family. We're all weirdos who don't quite fit in regular jobs. Are you? I gestured to her badge that read Liminal. Half in, half out, she said cryptically. My grandmother was something else. I can see things most humans can't, which is why I'm good at this job. She absently touched a strange scar behind her ear. What about you? Most pure humans don't last long here. Just desperate for money, I admitted. That works too. She grinned, though I sensed something when you walked in. You might have a touch of the difference yourself and not know it. At 1 a.m., Marcus called for break rotations. Trina showed me to the break room, which looked mostly normal except for the ceiling, which appeared to be a living stained glass window of shifting cosmic scenes. The night crew was gathered around a large table. Jerome, a massive man with ritual scars across his face and arms, who worked in the meat department. Yasmin, a petite woman with eyes that occasionally flashed yellow, responsible for produce. And Kai, whose gender I couldn't determine, and whose body seemed to blur at the edges when they moved quickly. Fresh meat, Jerome called when we entered. Human meat, Kai added, then laughed at my expression. Relax, it's just night shift humor. We don't need the staff anymore. They all laughed, and I forced myself to join in. First impression, Yasmin asked me, sipping from a thermos that emitted blue steam. It's a lot, I admitted, but it's good. That's what keeps us all here, Jerome agreed. That, and where else would people like us work? After break, things got weirder. The store layout began to shift subtly. Aisles lengthening or shortening, new sections appearing that hadn't existed before. A door materialized in the back wall, and occasional customers would emerge from it covered in frost, despite it apparently leading to the parking lot. Around 3 a.m., the lights flickered and dimmed further. Marcus hurried over to my register. The Countess is coming, he said urgently. She always shops at this hour. Extremely old, extremely powerful customer. Don't stare, don't speak unless spoken to, and if she offers you anything, politely decline. Minutes later, the automatic doors parted to admit a tall, elegant woman in an outdated Victorian dress. Her skin was porcelain white, her eyes hidden behind a black lace veil. She glided rather than walked, a retinue of shadowy figures trailing behind her carrying ornate shopping baskets. The other customers gave her a wide berth, some actually bowing as she passed. She spent an hour selecting items from various departments, her servants collecting them in the baskets. When she finally approached my register, the temperature dropped noticeably. "New blood," she remarked, her voice like silk over gravel. "How refreshing." I swallowed hard. "Welcome to SuperSaver, ma'am." "The Countess will suffice," she corrected, as her servants began unloading her selections onto the conveyor belt. Most were ordinary groceries, premium cuts of meat, expensive wines, imported chocolates. But interspersed were items I didn't recognize. A jar of what appeared to be fireflies frozen in amber, bundles of herbs tied with red string, a small box that seemed to absorb light around it. I scanned each item as Trina had shown me, careful not to make prolonged eye contact. "You are untouched," Countess observed, leaning slightly closer. From behind her veil, I glimpsed eyes that reflected red in the store's fluorescent lighting. Unusual in this establishment. "What brought you to the night shift, I wonder?" "Student loans," I answered honestly, surprising myself. The Countess laughed, a sound like crystal breaking. How delightfully mundane. I remember when indenture was more straightforward. She extended a gloved hand, offering a small, ornate silver coin. "A token of appreciation for your service." I remembered Marcus's warning and politely declined. "Thank you, but company policy prohibits accepting gifts from customers." "Not a gift," she corrected. "Payment for a future favor, but very wise to refuse." She withdrew the coin, seeming pleased rather than offended. "You might survive here after all." After she left, Trina returned to my side, exhaling deeply. "You handled that well. The Countess has collected 3 night workers over the years I've been here. They declined her offer, less diplomatically." "Collected?" "You don't want to know," Trina said firmly. "Just be glad you passed her test." The remainder of the shift brought more unusual customers. A group of what appeared to be children, but were actually ancient beings who spoke in perfect unison. Several entities that existed primarily as scents and disturbed air currents. A tall, thin man whose shadow moved independently from his body. And toward dawn, more ordinary-seeming people who Trina identified as boundary dwellers. Humans who lived close enough to the supernatural to need night shopping, but weren't entirely otherworldly themselves. At 7:30 a.m., Marcus initiated closing procedures for the night shift. The strange products were either purchased or relocated to a section of the stockroom marked with symbols. Aisles rearranged themselves back to their daytime configuration. Night-specific signage faded away, replaced by standard SuperSave marketing. "Not bad for a first shift," Marcus told me, as we gathered in the break room, debriefing. "You didn't scream, faint, or try to run. That puts you ahead of 60% of first-timers." "The pay helps," I said, exhausted but strangely exhilarated. "The pay is just to get you in the door," Jerome commented, removing his blood-stained apron. "The weird is what makes you stay." At 7:55 a.m., an announcement played. "Attention night staff, transition protocols initiating. Please complete all transactions and proceed to designated exits." The night customers hurried to finish their shopping, some dissolving into mist, others slipping through previously invisible exits, a few transforming into more conventional-appearing humans before heading to the regular doors. At exactly 8 a.m., fluorescent lights brightened to their usual harsh glare. The air pressure normalized. Sheila and the day crew entered through the front doors, looking fresh and oblivious to the night's strangeness. "Good shift?" Sheila asked Marcus. though she barely glanced at the night crew. "Profitable," he replied with a professional nod. The Countess made her monthly visit. Something flickered in Sheila's eyes. Recognition, perhaps fear, but she quickly masked it. "Excellent. We'll take it from here." As we clocked out, Trina nudged me. "See you tomorrow night?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, I think you will." "Good," she grinned. "It gets even weirder on Wednesdays. The mushroom people come to restock their colony, and they always bring extra for the staff. Best hallucinogens you'll ever experience." I followed the night crew to the employee exit at the back of the store. Outside, the rising sun made everything look deceptively normal. The SuperSaver sign glowed red against the morning sky, advertising weekly specials and normal business hours, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. No mention of the night shift at all. As I walked to my car, I noticed something strange. A small silver coin in my pocket that hadn't been there before. The Countess's coin somehow slipped to me despite my refusal. On one side was an ornate letter C. On the other, coordinates and a date exactly 1 year in the future. I should have thrown it away. Instead, I pocketed it and drove home, already counting the hours until my next shift at SuperSave, where the real shopping happens after dark. There will supposedly be more installments of this account. The source claims to have received multiple files from the same night shift worker. If this generates interest, I'll share the next episode when it arrives. Until then, maybe stick to daytime shopping.